should just go anyway? What does everyone vote? Go anyway?
Should we just go anyway?
One word at a time.
All right. I'll do it. Well, welcome.
All right.
To the most exciting panel.
Well, you're going to wait through this part.
We'll wait for this part.
Please remain where you are. Presently, our response team is on their way to locate the source of the alarm. Carefully portray the immediate danger to yourself. Please wait for further instructions over on the communication system. We apologize for any inconvenience.
Your seat can be used as a flotation device.
Let's do it.
All right, welcome to the panel show. Yay! I'm your host, bringing the fire, bringing the heat. I'm Patricia Steere, and I'm the host of Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, which is a YouTube channel. Please subscribe. On the panel, we have Mark Sargent, who you're familiar with, of course. Jeran Campanella, Rob Skiba, and Bob Nodel. And what we're going to do, when we're not being interrupted by a woman's voice and a dinging bell, are allowing you to ask some questions of these panelists. Maybe, earlier when Mark was on yesterday, some people weren't able to ask him a question because we ran out of time, or maybe you haven't had a chance to ask the other gentleman a question. All right, so I've got questions for the panelists, and they're each going to take a turn answering the questions. There will be 4 different questions. Then after that, we'll open up the floor like we have in the previous Q&As, if you've got any question at all for anybody here. But first, let's just go with the questions I've got here on my phone. The first question, and we're just going to start from Mark and then move down the line. The first question is, what is your recommendation regarding how to explain flat Earth to others, people who don't know about it, to friends, family, coworkers? What do you think, Mark?
Ooh, wow. That's a good question. If I were to be approaching, and I'm sure a lot of you have done it, flat Earth to a first-timer, be it a friend, family, or coworker, oh boy. First thing I would do is I would size them up, and I don't want to use the Fight Club reference. I would go after what some of these guys have done in the past, which is I would go after NASA first. I would find out where their belief system lied. And I know you're up here in Canada, but I would go after the American space program, more specifically Apollo. I would ask them point blank, do you think the Apollo missions happened? Do you think the Americans went to the moon? No, they didn't. But ask them, find out. Because if they believe wholeheartedly that the Americans did go to the moon, then you kind of know where to go from there. I never, ever recommend people go into like a family environment and say, oh, yeah, by the way, the Earth is flat. Try to warm them up to something first. That's just me.
Mm-hmm. All right, good answer.
Same question you said?
Yeah, same question. How would you explain it to friends, family, people that don't know anything about it?
I just think it depends on what kind of person you are. I see so many people doing activism that are out and able to talk to people on the street, and I think that that's fantastic. And I just watched a video last night of somebody standing on a boardwalk with a sign. Unbelievable. I mean, the amount of people that you're seeing or that are seeing that sign and asking questions. And it's just that, research flat Earth or flat Earth is that thing that makes anybody stop in their tracks and really kind of pay attention. So it just depends if you're able to do that. I know that that's something that some people wouldn't be able to do in a million years. So if you're that kind of person, then maybe doing what my wife did for a long time, which was she had little cutout pieces of paper, and then everywhere she went, she would leave them, whether it was the bank or ATM or grocery store. So in this way, she didn't have to really talk to anybody, but she's still getting the word out. So I think it just comes down to what kind of person you are.
All right, Rob, what's your answer to the same questions? Family, friends, coworkers, strangers, what do you think is the best way to approach them to explain the concept of flat Earth?
Well, right now I'm kind of freaking out a little bit. We start at 3:33 and the alarm goes off and we're all on stage, so I'm kind of thinking, if I was a conspiracy theorist, I'd be a little nervous right now. I don't consider myself a flat Earth evangelist, so I'm not like out there, hey, guess what? But if it's something that it starts up in a conversation, same thing these guys said basically. As a public speaker, I'm trained to try as much as possible to understand my audience and relate to my audience, so kind of feel out where they are. And like Robbie says, I got to figure out where you are with 9/11 and the moon landings. Because if you're on either of those pages, But the curvature math is a good one for me when I want to start the conversation and talk about it. Seeing things at a distance you're not supposed to be able to see, water bending, atmosphere in the vacuum. Those are kind of my 3 go-to starting points.
All right, Bob, before she speaks again, how would you answer the same question?
You are now free to move about the country. All right. Well, me personally, I would take the advice of another well-known flat Earth YouTuber, and when you just don't talk about Flat Club, pretty much. So I would never start out trying to talk directly about flat Earth. I usually will talk about something a lot easier, a lot more common sense, like what happened on 9/11. I'll point out the free fall speed of the buildings, falling in 10.2 and 10.6 seconds respectively. Find out what they feel about that. If they're completely against it, then you're probably not going to get very far with flat Earth subject at all. So, but if they're open to it at that point, then I would start going into some of the things that we discussed on Globebusters yesterday. So, yeah, that's pretty much about it. Is feel them out first. If they're not open to any other conspiracy, then it's probably not a good idea to talk about it. And it's kind of like what Morpheus said in the Matrix movie. Once people are past a certain point or age of indoctrination, it's dangerous to bring them out of the Matrix.
Good answer, good answer. All right, the next question is, and Mark, you're going to kick it off, and we're going to do the same thing.
All right.
With an interruption coming really soon, right?
It's like a game show, really.
Are there any personality traits that make a person more accepting of flat Earth or less accepting of flat Earth?
Ooh. Traits that people have, yeah, like if I was going to try to approach somebody who I thought, just off the cuff, if I was going to approach somebody that I thought might be receptive to flat Earth, I might go after, it's probably a safe answer, but I'd go after an artistic person first, because artistic people, you can almost plot a graph on open-mindedness. And, if they're creative, if they have a lot of cool little hobbies on the side, that's what I'd probably do. I'd probably go after an artistic person.
All right, Jeran, you next, but you can answer what would be less likely or more. That's up to you.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Well, I think that the education system has grooved people that are, yes men, the people that don't buck the trend, that go by the rules, that do any assignment no matter how ridiculous it is. Those people went on to get good grades, went on to get college degrees, and are the kind of people that are going to be real tough to talk to, because they are, they're so groomed to be exactly what the system wants. So, and then people that didn't have a college degree, but I went to college for like a month. So I think people like that kind of saw school for what it really is, or I may have not seen it completely at the time, but those people are open to it. They saw issues with the way we were brought up. They saw the issues with what we were taught in school and how that stuff just kind of went away and it wasn't important. So I think those people might be the best people to talk to. They can understand what we're trying to say.
Okay, Rob, any personality traits that might make somebody more likely or less likely?
Very much the same as what they both said. Right brain people. I tend to gravitate towards, anyway, as a right brain person myself, tend to be way more open to stuff. But when you're talking with an artist, I don't have to explain too much to them, because they understand things like perspective and how things like that work intuitively. So those would be the type of people that I would immediately have an easy conversation with, I think.
Bob.
And I'm going to make this easy and say exactly the same thing. Artistic, right brain type people, creative people are much more open-minded, and they think a lot more outside the box. Yes. So absolutely, those would be the type of people I would approach.
All right, back to Mark Sargent for the third question. What do you think is the most important aspect of Flat Earth that we might need to concentrate on to get the word out as we move forward? And that could be experiments or activism or more YouTube videos, or, well, what do you think? Yeah,
and this is probably the only one we'll probably disagree on, because everyone's got their own take. But moving forward for me, anyway, is going to be trying to reach the top tier media as fast as possible. Networks we haven't gotten to, prime time we haven't gotten to. I mean, we're reaching out, and the documentary and things are happening in that arena. But I believe in hitting as many people as possible as quickly as possible.
And so, even when the media attention is negative, as we've seen in some aspects today, you still are of the mindset that.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I'd rather the media come at us aggressively than ignore us. So that's my take.
All right. Same question to you, Jeran. What do you think is the most important aspect of Flat Earth we need to get out there?
Probably getting to be some kind of unit. I just think it's too segmented, and it's not something I intended or expected from the beginning. You should be able to tell by now who's in this for real, who's not, and it's just something people can't pick up. They still think that people have been doing this for 3 years and making 300 videos, and that they're doing it for some nefarious reason, or that they don't believe what they're saying. So until we all can operate as, at least, Rob's a Christian and I'm not. We get along great. We sit next to each other at dinner. We talk all the time. So we have the common goal. We have common beliefs. We both, want the world to be a better place. So people need to recognize that. The science side recognizes it, which is really sad. They'll back each other up till no end, even if they totally disagree. We just haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. What's been frustrating to me in any kind of a truther movement, I echo what both Mark and Jeran said, but in any truth movement, a lot of times what happens is when you start to realize everything's a conspiracy, or at least you get to the point where you think everything's a conspiracy, you start to think everything's a conspiracy. Everything.
Yeah.
We started at 333. See, it's a conspiracy. We must be Freemason shills. I think the community needs to first look up the word shill and understand what it actually means.
Right.
And have some substance behind if you're going to accuse somebody of something, at least have something to back it up. Don't just make it up. I mean, what happens too often is it becomes an infighting situation, and then nothing gets done. We're too busy pointing fingers at the other guy with no substance to prove anything, and we don't go anywhere. So I would say we need to get a lot more unified. And okay, fine, if we find some rock solid thing that somebody did that's wrong, fine, maybe we should expose it. But otherwise, why are we fighting each other? We've got enough problems.
Yeah, look for the person's fruits. Really, I mean, it's fairly simple. And if people have been in it for a very long time and have been consistent and don't seem to be actually hurting other people, well, probably they're not a show.
Probably.
Bob, you're the last one to answer the same question, which is, what do you think we should focus on? Would it be activism, or how should we get this message out?
What I think we should focus on is exactly the direction I'm trying to take Globebusters into, and also FE Core. And we need to get out to the public, some of our results in our experiments that we have found, the laser test, the gyroscope test, the ring laser gyroscope, the microwave RF test. We are striving to do them to the very best of our abilities and, document them very meticulously. And then after that, we target the educational and professional industries with those results and ask them to either... But anyway, so I think, once we get all these results collected, we try and get those out to the academic institutions and, have them evaluate what we have done and then corroborate that. And that's probably one of the most effective ways that we can actually get the word out. And also issue a challenge, maybe even with some money involved, to some of the higher education institutions. I know that there are currently several challenges out. One is the $5,000 NASA Eclipse Challenge, where some individuals are releasing all this data about eclipses for the last 50 years. And the challenge is to corroborate it and fit it into the heliocentric model. Thus far, nobody has taken that challenge. So these are things that are very telling to me, because anybody can use an extra $5,000. But so if we can get this information out there and issue challenges, ask them to match what we have found, I think that's one of the best ways we can advance our cause.
All right. Well, I'm wondering, once they've already said they've located, why is the bell ringing? But this is the last question, and if you've got questions for any of the panelists, you'll have the opportunity to ask it after this question, so start formulating. Mark, what do you think the best piece of advice you could give to a brand new flat earther would be?
All right. Sorry. The
best advice for a new flat earther. Somebody
brand new flat earther coming in.
Yeah. Some like you here right now.
Yeah.
Converted after sitting through yesterday and today's presentation.
If I was running into a flat earther that was, for the first time, if you're in like a week or a month, first thing I would tell you is don't forget what it took for you to get there. Meaning the most common problem I ever run with anyone in the flat earth community is that once it takes them, so we plant the seed, it gets in their head, and then they flip and they become a flat earther. And then for whatever reason, they forget how long it took them. So if it took them 2 weeks or 2 months, they forget that entirely. And then all of a sudden they get so full of enthusiasm, and they rush to their family and say, oh yeah, I convinced these people in 2 hours. I can convince these people in a cup of coffee. And they just get smacked in the face because, they don't understand. It's like, why can't you get this? I got it. So, no, you forgot how long it took for you to get there. It's not your job to convince people in 2 hours. It's just plant the seed and let it grow naturally like it did in you. There you go.
That's a good answer. Jeran.
Yeah, I'd say that I tell them to watch, if they're watching videos and they hear something that they think might be a fact. I mean, there's so much wrong information out there now that, even I'm responsible for. I mean, when we started doing this, a lot of people got things wrong or made mistakes, and those things have been cleaned up. But you'd have to be doing your research to see that. I mean, if you think that you know the answer to some question, or if you're going to say that the horizon always rises to eye level, then you need to look into that and see that there's reasons why when you get up higher that you are seeing a little bit of a drop, but it's because the horizon is apparent.
So yes,
it's basically it. Just to make sure you double check your facts, because there's like I was saying about the horizon, it's an apparent horizon. So if you just have to be armed with the right kind of information so that you're ready to answer questions, or to not make more videos saying wrong things and just kind of further
we've all fallen
setting
into
us back.
The trap where we've heard something on a video and it sounded right, and it did show flat Earth to be true, and then told that to people, and then found out later, well, that word doesn't really mean that, or that...
Yeah, one of the worst things I did was on Globebusters, somebody had said that quote by Tesla that said, the Earth is not a planet, it's a realm. And I mean, I just went straight to Globebusters and said it, and then I remember saying it, and as I said it, saying, I didn't check that. I got to check it after the show.
Everything.
After the show, I spent hours just looking for that. Please let me find that damn quote, but it wasn't there. So, I mean, ended up it was, I think that guy Daryl something from Facebook is the one who just kind of made it up.
There's a lot of memes out there you'll find on social media that are attributed to people, things that famous people have said that may bolster flat Earth, but you've got to make sure you find out if those
really make sure
really said it, because oftentimes they didn't.
Right.
It's too good to be true. Rob Skiba, your answer.
There's a, shall I say, ancient proverb that says that a prophet is hailed everywhere except his hometown. And that's true. You can see that in many different cases. Your friends and family, you're probably not going to convince them yourself because they know you. So what I would say to a zealous new flat earther is say, look, find the best videos that were convincing to you, and just say, hey, check this out. Let somebody else do the hard work. You can do the follow-up, but send them to a video that you, for somebody that you trust or whatever, a convincing set of videos, and let your friends and family watch those, because they're really probably not going to listen to you. That's what I would say.
All right. You're the last one to answer the question, Bob.
Okay. Well, for me personally, I would have to say, do not play by their rules. Meaning that when people try and debate you on flat Earth, and a lot of... Anyway, back to what I was saying, a lot of people want to go out and talk to people about it. And you will get ridiculous responses like, well, if the Earth was flat, it would be daylight all day long, right? Well, that kind of response only indicates that, the person that you're talking to has no idea what the flat Earth model is actually about. And so what they're assuming, obviously, is the sun is 93 million miles away. Well, if that was actually true, then you probably would have 24-hour daylight, stuff like that. So they will constantly try and drag you into their mathematics, their model, and say, well, how is this possible? One example that I can give is there's another pilot that challenged me to navigate the flat Earth using the longitude and latitude system for the globe. And when he asked that, it hit me. It's like, oh my God, this is really what your problem is. You're trying to ask me to navigate using a flat Earth or a global longitude and latitude system, which obviously does not work the same way on a flat Earth. And he couldn't get his head around that, obviously, and he still to this day issues that challenge to all flat earthers. But it's very clear that there would be a different type of setup if we had one for the flat Earth, possibly like a grid system or something like that. But the bottom line is you've got to not play by their rules. Remember that when they are speaking, they're always speaking in terms of their model, and you'll find that it very seldom ever applies to the flat earth. And if you're not on your toes, you'll get sucked right into that argument, and then you'll get your butt kicked. So,
good advice. And another bit of information I just thought of. Remember the movie It's a Wonderful Life? Everyone's seen that? Yeah. There's a quote in there that every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
Wow,
So
there you go, a lot of wings. Where's that guy who said he didn't believe in angels?
we've all been promoted.
So now is the opportunity, if you've got a question for anybody here, including me, that you can ask. And the lights are blinding me, but I do believe we still have a microphone set up on either side. Anybody? You guys can see.
Who's got the mic?
So,
And it'd be awesome if, I don't know, did they say their name and where they're from?
Oh, yeah.
bringing the lights up.
If you could say who you are and where you're from, I'd like to know,
Yes.
and I don't know if they did that in the other panels.
Yes.
Who's?
Yeah, so
Anyone's
Patricia,
got a question,
yeah.
you can just
Raise your
take
hand.
on the mic.
Yes. In fact, I do know we had one question up front here, though, that they wanted me to ask, so here you go.
All right, wonderful.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the reporter there, where he was saying that we were always bringing the Bible into this. And I just wanted to say that the people that are pushing this agenda always bring Satan into it. And as Rob showed with Apollo and everything else, it's constantly showing, their Luciferianism. And it goes much deeper than just a lie. It's your salvation and where your soul's going to end up. And, I just wanted to really thank everybody for coming here and telling the truth. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Does anyone have a question? Raise your hand.
Right here. I'll make my way back.
Oh, no.
Oh, here we go again.
Well,
Cheers.
Marino's being produced.
Sorry, this here was a question for Rob. I was going to ask you earlier on, but whenever you guys are going to talk about going on the offensive, so what research are you currently doing, and who are you partnering up with that could really propel this movement forward? Somebody who's really mainstream that sort of would partner up, co-author some of your research material.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, for me, part of the going on the offensive, some of you may be aware of this, but Dr. Robert Sungenis, who was behind the movie The Principle. So Dr. Robert Sungenis, the guy who did The Principle, recently published a book, Flat Earth, Flat Wrong, 730-page book, in which I'm mentioned about 180 times. So it was like, wow, okay, I guess I should feel honored by that, but wow. So, at first when something like that happens, you get hurt. I mean, it's like, geez, this sucks. Then I was like, you know what? So I got his book. So I start looking through the book. Now, obviously, he claims to be a Christian and claims the Bible is the source for truth. So, there are lots of science-type stuff in that book, and I figured, well, I know my gifting, I know the things that I am wired to deal with. So I looked at just the Bible side, it was about 80-something pages. And I'm like, I'm going to attack that because his eisegesis is unbelievable and pretty easy to refute, in my opinion. And we are scheduled at some point to do a debate. But I went and immediately got the domain isflatearthflatwrong.com. And so my goal is to partner with people that want to help me to demolish this guy's arguments, all of them. Now, obviously, on the Christian biblical side of things, there are... his book is Flat Earth, Flat Wrong. I got the domain is Flat Earth, Flat Wrong, and I want to partner with people on all aspects of it, from the scientific side of things to the biblical side of things, and the people that I trust that I can I have a WordPress site, to give them author accounts on my site where they can just rip apart his book, take whatever section that you want, and, it's open to all you guys as well to help me out with this, but to partner with other people because, he's making the rounds right now. He's one of the big detractors out there. But I'll say this at the same time as saying, he's about 80% on our side, when you really get down to it. So I would actually like to see him converted, ultimately. But part of my strategy right now, as far as me going on the offense is going. I want to have so many articles on my website that if anybody looks up Flat Earth, Flat Wrong, all the Google searches are going to be from my site, not his. And then what we may be able to do then, if everybody's open to it, if the idea is that it be an open source place for people to deposit their information, that anybody who's so inclined can take any of that content on there and make a compilation book of their own. To go up against him. So, theoretically, we could have a lot of different books because let's say everybody on the panel here contributes to it and I have my own take on it. Well, I can, if we're all open to that and it's open source, I can say, well, Jeran's got a great quote right here, and Jeran says da-da-da, and I could put together my own book that would have his information. He could do the same thing. Everybody could do the same thing. So we need to start getting stuff out there, more than just our YouTube, I think, and we need to be more mindful of the need to unite. And to go on the offensive. That's my opinion.
And do people know that Son Genis is the one from the movie The Principal?
I think a lot of people do. I don't know.
Yeah. Which is a great movie if you haven't seen it. It absolutely destroys the globe.
He destroys heliocentricity from a scientific point of view, as well as from a biblical worldview. From both. So, like I said, he's about 80% on our side. So, but. I'm not backing down from these people, and the creation scientists especially. I mean, what they're doing to the text is they're just torturing it. So.
And we would work with mainstream scientists. Nobody here would be opposed to that. The mainstream scientists are the ones opposed to even considering the idea. Perhaps someday it will happen, but perhaps someday the bell will stop ringing too.
Maybe not.
Patricia, we got a question right here.
Hi, Connie from Red Deer. If the moon is closer than what we've been told and smaller and goes in a predictable path,
right,
and is within the dome,
sure,
why could we not visit it?
Is that a question for me?
Or anybody?
Oh, anybody.
I'll answer just in the fact that I think that the idea of people landing on a ball is not possible. By teaching everybody that it happened, it kind of subconsciously makes us think that we could live on a ball. So, I mean, personally, I think that no matter what the moon is, I don't think it's a big rock in the sky because it kind of breaks, a lot of the laws of physics that I would think exist. But then again, it is a celestial item; it's not a terrestrial item. So, I mean, for me, I just I don't think it's someplace you can go because I don't think you can stand on a spherical rock. Unless you were on the very top of it.
They're telling us right now their problem, even today, is getting through the radiation. The Orion program was the new program that followed the retiring of the space shuttle program. And there's a famous video many of you guys have probably already seen now that NASA put out saying, talking about the Orion project and saying one of our biggest problems right now is figuring out how to get through the radiation. Of course, anybody with half a brain should be raising their hand and going, why don't you just put on the same jumpsuits and get in the same tin can you did 50 years ago, and go clean up Fukushima while you're at it, if that stuff actually works. And I think Mark's got a great idea in his challenge to, maybe you can talk about the challenge about the vacuum chamber. And
oh, yeah, I'm probably going to die in a vacuum chamber. Just so you guys know.
The other thing is we don't actually get closer to the moon. If you notice, when you go up towards it, it gets further away.
Yeah.
So it isn't like we see it full moon and we start flying in an airplane and we get closer to it. So it doesn't seem like it's almost like what do you call that? A lenticular. I don't know if you've ever seen those things. You walk by and you can kind of see them change.
Yeah.
Is that lenticular? Is that the name?
I can't remember the name.
Yeah, it kind of seems like the moon is like that, or the atmosphere is like that. That it's portraying for each person. Yeah, like a rainbow. So that's what it seems like.
Real quick, the challenge I came up with was born out of people that were interviewing me saying, is there anything we can show you that would get you to believe in a ball, a globe, a sphere anymore? And I used to say, put a 4K camera on top of a rocket, and let it run. Don't turn it off. Don't edit anything. But I thought, that's going to take forever. No one's ever going to do it. And so I tried to boil it down even simpler. I said, let's do something on the ground. Because up until now, I don't think there were any tests on the ground. And what we can do is we can create a vacuum chamber, in all sorts of different universities. And we should have plenty of spacesuits for the last 50 years because they all worked perfectly. None of them ever had a problem. And so I said, okay, give me a NASA suit, put me in it, put me in the chamber, and then pull the lever and see what happens. Tell me how I don't die. No, it sounds good in theory.
I think you should put them in there.
It's also
videotape it.
Yeah. The other part was I want to go in with somebody else. It's not just me. I'd rather have somebody from science. standing next
holding
to me.
Hands with you.
Yeah, holding hands while we both go down. But it's true. That was the thing I came up with, because a fabric suit, a fabric bag of air cannot survive in a vacuum. And I challenge any of you here to even come up with a sci-fi explanation. That's how I knew it was going to work, because I couldn't even come up with anything in movies and television. I could not imagine the technology that's supposedly in that backpack that stops a suit from going tight as a snare drum and bursting.
And why that technology isn't used for so many other things.
Oh, yeah.
For all of us here on Earth. Even the way they say the suits can protect from micrometeors when on the ISS, they're out doing spacewalks.
Yeah.
Let's have that stuff on our cars on the exterior, on our children's bicycle helmets. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Great.
But you were also speaking of the bell, but having like different things in there, like a balloon, so we see the balloon expand. You're talking about putting a balloon in there so it expands, and water so it boils. And,
the three tests. The bell, because the bell won't make any sound.
To verify that they are in fact in a vacuum chamber.
Right.
You do that test, those 3 tests first.
Then have them in there with those things.
Yeah, because it can't be faked. Well, you can't fake all 3, and those 3 things would cost you all $4. It's easy to do.
We're going to go to you, Eddie, with the microphone, but first to the back, the gentleman who has the microphone with your question.
All right, I'm Whitney. I'm from.
Wait, I will hand it to Canada. They are thorough. Absolutely thorough.
My name is Whitney. I'm from here as well. This is for Jeran. I've gotten to talk to just about everyone there so far, except for you, Jeran. My question for you is more along the line of your Freedom of Information request to NASA and the development on that. I haven't heard anything on that lately. You may have put it up on your YouTube channel or something, but I haven't seen it yet.
No, I haven't. Finally, it took a month till I got the money back from my bank, and then I was able to submit the payment again, and it went through this time. Then she told me July 17th, she said she would have it by the 30th. I never got any calls. And then just day before yesterday, she called and told me to make the final payment, that they have the video. So as soon as I make that payment, then they should ship it. So we'll see what we get, because I had to send them a hard drive. So there's something on there, according to her.
Can you let everyone know what?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, it's going to be all released to archive.org and then also on my channel in its completion, whatever I get.
My name is James from Calgary, Alberta. Just a question for everybody. When you first started discussing Flat Earth, have you ever had any close friends or family, maybe extended family, that have reacted badly to this? Maybe got aggressive, overly hostile, or just cut ties with you, and how have you dealt with it?
I started out by saying, if you want to see somebody get in touch with their inner psycho, just mention that you're looking into it, and you will see sweet old ladies go bat crap crazy right in front of you. Your grandmother that was like the sweetest woman ever, like, go insane. And I've seen, people that I never in a million years would have imagined losing it go crazy in front of me. And that's what made me think there is something on a spiritual level here. Like, I can't explain it in any rational sense, why somebody would go that berserk in front of me just at the mere mention of, hey, I'm looking into this flat earth thing. Yeah, I've lost friends. For the most part, my family has been really cool with it because they've been along with me on the journey. And like I said during one of my presentations when I'm showing my dad stuff, who was also a pilot, so I got him going with the attitude indicator. I'm like, Dad, it's been about 20 years since I've flown. I think I remember how can you explain how the attitude indicator works again? And he went through the whole thing, so I popped that on him, and he's like, hey, that's a good question. So, my immediate family has been pretty cool, but I've lost good friends, and other people have just taken off.
Yeah. I haven't had anything so much like that that I can think of. Nobody got real upset. Although I do think a reason why people would is, everything changes in your life. Your parents pass away, your grandparents passed away, you change schools, you change homes, and the one thing that never changes is the ball earth. So it's kind of like that baby blanket for people that, it's just the one thing that they thought they'd never have to even question because it had been a ball since you were born. So I think that could be a reason why people lose it, because that's kind of all they have to hold on to, Most
of my family was okay with it or neutral with it because I'm pretty strange guy sometimes anyway. It's a joke, somewhat eccentric. But I did have a cousin who I'd only talked to maybe twice a year write me an email and just lace me with profanity. It's like, what the bleep, 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 bleep. And it's like, and I hadn't written her in probably, I don't know, a year at least. And that was her opening line. And I save it now as sort of a little inspiration. I'm also saving it for if we run into it. We haven't spoken since, and I have to go through her twin sister but yeah, I mean, it does happen from time to time.
I told my sister and my brother, my sister said, very interesting, I know you're intelligent, so there must be something to this, but I don't have time to look into it. We've all heard that. My brother said, have you become, quote, a crazy Christian, unquote, and are you a Holocaust denier who hates Jews? And I went, what about anything I said is...
Right, had nothing to do with that.
And you've known me all my life, and it was a weird response.
But that's a taught response. I mean, that is a trained response.
Yeah.
Patricia, we have another question here.
Lynn from Idaho. I'm a flat earther, but if you look at the night sky, there's a ton of heliocentric model evidence. I mean, you got the moon that looks 3D, like a sphere with the craters. You got, phases of the moon shining to the sun like it's reflecting off it. You got planets that look like they're orbiting with us around the sun. You have Jupiter and moons. You got comets with solar wind tails. So either whoever created the flat Earth decided to put all this in place to mess with our heads, or hologram technology came along at some point, although look at all the flaws to it, so they had the technology to do it, but they didn't do it perfect, or what? Help me out here. So.
Who wants it? Want me to jump in?
I think some of the things you said may be true and some might be...
See,
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, you call it heliocentric, evidence, but at the same time, why? The saying I like to throw out to people is, God created the sun and the moon, but it was NASA that told you what they were and how far they were away, and what. You see that. Yeah, and what's happening in the sky. So, I generally jump back to what we can do now. Like 2001: A Space Odyssey. I challenge anyone to go in with a Blu-ray and look at that moon when they're heading towards the moon. It's gorgeous. It's flawless. And we did that movie back in the 60s. We're talking about powers and technology. It's way, way beyond us.
And if it was all heliocentric proof, I think that then they would have said it was heliocentric from the start. But they obviously didn't, because no one had taught it to them when they were, in kindergarten.
Right.
So I think we are all very conditioned to look at things on that kind of spherical model, and then everything makes sense in the planets. And but I myself struggle with. I watch Jupiter and its moons, almost every night, and it is interesting. But then again, I've never been shown, enough evidence to say that Jupiter is bigger than a basketball or bigger than a 10-foot or 100-foot. I don't know how big it is. They tell me it's 100 times as big as the Earth, and I think that that's ridiculous, and I don't think there's evidence for it. So until they prove those things to me, I just look at it as a light in the sky, and it's got 4 little lights that seem to circle it or follow it.
And what happens up there doesn't really make what we're standing on like what's up there.
True. It's way different. I mean, look at all the life that's here, and we know that there's, even NASA admit, there's no life anywhere else. So it's a very big difference between this place where, I feel the Earth is the biggest thing that there is by far. There's nothing even close to the size of the Earth.
Except Elon Musk's ego.
There you go.
Yeah.
And also, you have to remember that the heliocentric cosmology is the new kid in town. Before that, every culture on Earth, going back as far as recorded history, has had the cosmology as a flat, stationary Earth. All of the, we talked about some of the instruments that were found, like the Antikythera device and astrolabes and stuff like this, that absolutely show that these predictions and this cosmology was just as viable on a flat Earth as it is on the heliocentric model. It's only been the last 500 years, basically, that they've been back engineering it and also making up a lot of their own facts as they go along. Like putting the sun out to 93 million miles. But before it was that, it was much further, and it's also been much closer. So it's been a trial and error process for the heliocentrists also.
Any other questions from the audience?
Hi, my name is Jessica Mason. I'm from Grand Prairie, Alberta, 5 hours west from here. My question is, for a lot of us are on social media, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and as you know, they are censoring big time. So posts are getting taken down, people's YouTube pages are disappearing. I mean, I'm a nobody, and my posts are deleted all the time. So do you guys have any alternative media sources that we can go to when this all shuts down?
Very good question.
Yeah, I think that's probably very much on all of our minds. I mean, you put a lot of time and effort into the content and trying to build your subscription base and everything else, and like at any second, it could all go away. I have yet to find the alternative yet. I am still looking myself because each one that I have been told about has its problems also. So I don't have that solution. But what I've been doing with my subscribers is saying, look, I'm creating an email list. Get on my email list, because if one day you go and find my YouTube channel's gone, that's about the only way I'm going to be able to contact most of you. So that's what I'm taking steps to do right now. But I don't know, maybe you guys know of some alternatives, but I think that's on all of our minds right now.
No, it also seems like YouTube's got the handle on video players that actually play well in a browser. And it's just, I don't know about everybody else, I can't get videos to play anywhere else. It seems like, so if you want a decent running video with that works well, it's like YouTube's the only place. But if anybody has any sites,
and they're also playing with it, as Marcus pointed out before, with the search.
I'd also like to say that don't think, and I know the Alex Jones thing that happened just as we were coming up here, probably weighing on all your minds, but don't forget that was an individual, and Flat Earth is an idea. I mean, technically, we could all die in a plane crash tomorrow. Not going to happen. But at the same time, Flat Earth keeps going. I mean, Flat Earth is a massive, massive idea. You try to shut down Flat Earth at this point, it would be very, very difficult to do. I have to quote real quick the Google YouTube engineer that finally, after he left Google for a certain amount of time, his disclosure agreement lapsed, and he did an interview. And literally, out of all the things he could have picked in terms of topics, he was asking how search engines work and how things are recommended. And he goes, look, when somebody watches 20 Flat Earth videos in a row, what do you think we're going to recommend? We're going to recommend that. We are still this secret cash cow for YouTube, because a lot of people go into it. And I'll finish with this. When the adpocalypse, if you guys didn't know what that was, when YouTube wanted to get some of their bigger sponsors back, and they were going after some of the channels that were out there and shutting them down, Flat Earth did not take much of a hit in comparison. Yeah, there were a few channels that took hits here and there, but I can't speak for any of you guys here, but I lost no videos from YouTube, and most of the people I talked to didn't lose any videos. Flat Earth is bigger than just a small bias that's out there. When people come against us, it's not that easy to pin down. I can't even imagine if I was even working for YouTube how I would take out Flat Earth. There's too many ways to sneak it in. But anyway.
Keep using the social media that you've got until otherwise informed, and use it a lot. No matter what you do, just try to talk about it. I think, the whole Fight Club thing, don't talk about it. I really think we should try to talk about it as much as possible. But of course, know who you're talking to and approach them a way that would make sense to them. And then if you're shut down, don't waste a lot of time with them. Don't engage in fighting with them. You can never convert anyone by fighting.
One more real quick thing. Don't pick a fight if you don't have to. That's the Fight Club reference, which is, look, if you know they're going to come at you, fine. If you're in the mood for a fight, sure, go ahead. But don't sacrifice friends and family and coworkers just because you want to ham-fist it. Show some delicacy when you're doing it.
Sometimes being right is something that you know. You don't have to force it down someone else's.
Patricia, we have another question?
Yes, and then there's a gentleman here. And Eddie, you wanted to ask the question too, right, eventually? All right.
Great. This is kind of a mix. It's Rob from Windsor here. Thanks, guys, for answering all the questions that you have. So, Shambhala, right? We have the North Pole. We have Santa Claus lives there, maybe. And the testimony of Admiral Byrd going there. What's your kind of thoughts on that? And then going into the the stars and the sun being as for times and seasons of what's to come and what is happening now. Your thoughts on astrology with the occult and New Age and just all that kind of wrapped up. Yeah, not to.
No, that's okay.
We've got about 5 more hours.
Anyone?
I would love to go north. I mean, I think that if anybody can ever orchestrate some sort of journey up there, that would be the best thing that we could do. I don't think you'd make it. I mean, I'm not saying that they would kill you. I just don't know if logistically it could happen. But I think it's of huge importance to see. Were you talking to Bob earlier about the idea of the magnetic mountain?
Yeah.
I think that's highly possible. That there is some sort of Mount Meru there at the center. That's why they don't have flights that go right over it. They seem to go askew. They don't let anybody within a certain range there. So I think we got to get there.
Yeah, I agree. For a while, all of our attention was on Antarctica, what's going on, and I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on down there for sure. But the temperature difference between the south and the north is dramatic. I mean, it's just crazy how different it is. And the north is way more reasonably accessible. I'm sure that there are probably some sort of government restrictions and things, but in terms of climate and other things, it's a lot more accessible. And when you start, at least when I started to look into the whole Rupes Negra, Mount Meru, sides of the north, Mount Zion, whatever you want to call it, this thing that's supposedly in the center of the north, it gets very interesting. In fact, most of us went to schools that had the Mercator map hanging in our classroom. And if you look into Mercator and read what he wrote to John Dee, Mercator wrote this letter to John Dee describing in quite a bit of detail about this magnetic lodestone mountain with a circumference of 33 miles, I think it was, or is it diameter, I forget, of 33 miles, that has 4 rivers going out from it with 4 island-like small continents around it. And, many ancient cultures had an understanding of this place and regularly wrote about it. And when you see that writing about this place, it goes all the way into the 1940s with Admiral Byrd, I think there's something to it. And I don't believe in Santa Claus, but I am now.
What?
Oh, no, I don't. I'm sorry. I am way more interested in the north than I am in the south.
Yeah.
And I think if there's any way to get there, I would, look, if we can at least get to the landmass, that's cool enough, because the rivers are pretty wild, and the description of the 4 land islands there are pretty amazing. And I would like to get as far on the land to go see the whirlpool, because there's something like 400 or 500 miles across whirlpool at the center. The mountain is in the center of this whirlpool. Wow, I mean, that's pretty crazy.
What about the stars and the signs and seasons?
I would actually just like to get into Aurora Borealis really quick with the whirlpool, with Aurora being a light and Bor being a hole, like Borealis. Light coming from a hole, what's up with that?
Okay. How many of you guys have seen the video that I did with Andy Hoy and his tabernacle model? Anybody raise your hand? Anybody see that? If you haven't, you should look through my video list for the video that I did with a guy named Andy Hoy. And mind you, the information came to me at a time when I was really beat down. When I first got into this with Mark in April 2015, I started blogging like crazy and writing and putting up what eventually became testinglobe.com. By August, everybody in the world's coming after me, attacking me. I got sciatica. My father-in-law is in our living room dying of cancer. It was a rough season. And I said, screw this, I'm done. I put up Phil Collins, I don't care anymore, on every page of my website. I put up the Phil Collins video, I don't care anymore. I was like, forget it, I'm done with this. Then I get this letter from an atheist saying, how dare you? And it was actually an atheist that made me put it back up again because of how much it meant to him. I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. What was the original question?
Aurora Borealis.
Oh, Aurora Borealis. So I'm in the middle of all this, I'm way down low. And I get this package in the mail from this guy, Andy Hoy. And usually it's something like that. It goes in the I'll get to it later pile, which I almost never get to. I finally opened it up and looked at it, and he had these very detailed, he's an engineer and he's a Hebrew scholar. And he had spent time in Israel studying the tabernacle in the wilderness. And as an engineer, he's saying the usual rectangular box that is usually depicted as the ancient tabernacle doesn't work from an engineering perspective, nor does it work from a linguistic when you look at the text and everything. So he went back to the text and looked at it in Hebrew, and as an engineer, he said, wait a minute, everybody's assuming you connect the long curtains on the long ends. The text just says connect them at the ends. Everybody assumes the long ends, and when you do, you get a rectangular box. But he says the text doesn't demand that, so I wonder what would happen if I connected it at the short ends. And when he did, he ended up with a 6-story high circular dome tent, within which is the Holy of Holies, that has curtains set up with cherubim on them. And if that is a blueprint of something that Moses was shown in heaven, I believe he may have been shown what I call the Yahuwah terrarium, or this place that we're living in which case the throne would be right above it, and the curtains in the tabernacle represent what we call the aurora borealis.
Isn't that exactly what that cosmos endopleidiosis from Christian topography?
Oh, the Egyptian monk, Cosmos. Yeah, he said something along those, along those lines. So, I don't know, but it seems rather interesting that we may have this thing called Rupert Negra, or Mount Meru, or the sides of the north, Mount Zion, right under the location of the throne, and we have this curtain, and if you've ever seen the Northern Lights, and we're hoping to in the next couple of days maybe, it looks like these wavy curtains up there in the sky. So
that is a fantastic answer.
Of Oz, with the behind the curtain lies the truth, the man with all the power. There's a lot of these things that are connected.
But yeah, look up that video. I did a whole thing on it with Andy Hoy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you first for coming to Edmonton. Everyone who came, thank you. Welcome. Please come back next year. It's super fun. I'm from Edmonton. My name's Grace. More than a question, I sort of have a comment. I'd like to go back to what you were talking about earlier about how to talk to someone who has never thought about flat Earth before. And I'm nervous. I'm going to lean on you.
Don't be nervous.
I think that Mark was right when he suggested going after first NASA and the American space program, because I think that's what happened to me. And regardless of your politics, if everyone could just kind of take a deep breath and go, and forget who you like and don't like, and what the media especially has told us, because as you've pointed out, and as most of us know, we are being lied to. And I think that's something we can really all agree on. Like, that's a really good jump-off point almost, is to point that out, that, yeah, we're definitely being lied to about some things, right? So with NASA, for example, I saw with my own eyes and watched a video where NASA, in a compilation with Obama actually, admitting that we cannot leave Earth's lower orbit. Yeah. So if we can't leave Earth's lower orbit, and the moon isn't in Earth's lower orbit apparently, how did we go? And if it is within Earth's lower orbit, then we're being lied to about where it is exactly, right? And the size of it, too. And that's where I think the moon is really interesting. And there's other reasons, too, of course. When it comes to, let's say, Trump, for example, he stood with Buzz Aldrin beside him, and he said, and Buzz made all kinds of weird faces. I don't know if you've seen that video. Anyway, regardless of what you think of Buzz Aldrin even, Trump said that it's going to be difficult for people to understand why we're creating a space program when there is no space. And you can Google it. Trump says there is no space, regardless of what you think of him. And so he also said, I forgot off the top of my head, I'm sorry. But it's interesting. If you pay attention, I think, just to what we're being told on that level, it shows that we're right. We are right about being lied to. It's a good place to start, I think, right? And if there is a reason why we haven't left Earth's lower orbit, what is it? And if it is a dome and you're talking to scientists, suggest something like plasma. Get them thinking, like, what could it be? It doesn't have to be, and that was the other thing I wanted to mention too, is that I don't think you have to be religious to believe that we're being lied to, or that there's a chance that there is a dome or something above us, something, call it a firmament, call it a dome, call it plasma, call it whatever you want, but there's something. There's some reason why we can't leave Earth's lower orbit. What is it? Right? So, I don't know. Just a thought. Just a way to maybe get the ball rolling. That's all. Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have a beautiful voice, by the way.
And
So much, Patricia. You are so gorgeous. No one would believe your age ever, ever, ever.
okay. I do want to respond to one comment that you made, about why is it that we can't get out there. And a very interesting news item came up, I don't know, about 2 or 3 years ago from the University of Colorado, and then was also verified by MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And in this article, they described that they have found a Star Trek-like shield about 7,000 miles above the Earth. And they say that it is so bizarre that it seems like it's an absolute solid object. And they have no explanation for it, but they're saying, well, this has got to be what's protecting us from the Van Allen radiation belts. But yeah, just the fact that came out by CSU and then was verified by MIT, that in and of itself should really make people question things.
Yeah.
So.
Hi, my name is Ellie from St. Albert, and I'm just wondering, with all the different space stations that we've had up there, the American, the Russian, the international, do you guys know of any experiments that have benefited mankind?
It's a great question. A lot of money, and no. And you'd think that these actors that they hire, or astronauts, whatever you want to call them, you'd think that they would have something to say when they're asked, what experiments are you doing? And every time they just say the word science over and over again, and can't even make up one. So it's pretty pathetic. But I think that's based off what she said too. That's where we need to start with people. Point those things out. NASA says that every astronaut is one of 4,000 applicants. I mean, we should be expecting so much higher of a caliber than we're getting. Yeah.
It seems like they play with toys on the ISS, really. The gorilla suit, guitar,
water ping pong every time.
Showing us how toilets work and how you wash your hair. Things that would amuse children, stuffed animals flying in the air, and continually growing lettuce for some strange reason.
Yeah, John and I always make that joke that you can look it up, just Google it, and then change the time that you're searching. Go back to 1990 to 95 or 95 to 2000, and they're always they grew lettuce on the ISS for the first time, and it's the same thing over and over again. So
a few different times.
Yeah.
And they present it every time as if, it might start to get you to believe in the Mandela effect, as if it's brand new information.
Right.
And I think that's how they're like the book 1984, when they changed the truth and then throw the old story down the memory hole where it would burn and disappear. That's how they're tricking everybody who's not paying close attention. Just saying a totally different story, and everyone just believes it's true. And that's why it's really important for us, all at Flat Earthers, not just who's here, to remain vigilant and keep track of these
right.
lies.
Yeah, take screenshots and things like that. Because you're absolutely right. That's what scares me about the Mandela effect. I don't think that the Mandela effect itself is true. I think it's just bad memories. But then what they're going to do with that is, once everybody's convinced it's just our bad memories, then they start removing things from history, and the answer is going to be, oh, we remembered it wrong. Right. So that's the plan, is by making us think, oh, Sex in the City, Sex and the City, how do we spell Fruit Loops? People are going to get used to the fact that, oh, it's just our bad memories, and then when they start plucking things off the internet, it's going to be our default answer is, oh, I guess I just remember that wrong, so be careful.
They already went to Mars in 15 years. They could just put that in the news.
They're not on Mars?
They're little robot cars.
Yeah.
It's already working on Mars.
Yeah.
Next question.
There is no dark side of the moon, really. As a matter of fact, it's all dark.
Speak a little aloud.
There is no dark side of the moon, really. As a matter of fact, it's all dark.
Yeah. I got it.
Okay, my question happens to deal with, I haven't done it, I got lazy, I forgot, I don't know what the reason is, I've always wanted to get back into it, but I'm seeing, and I believe, and I accept, I don't know what to think, because again, I haven't done my homework. What's the deal with they're telling us the moon didn't start glowing until 1977?
I've never heard that.
Nobody?
Well, I know where you're going with this, but no, the moon, this was talked by a few other people, and that is, when did we all of a sudden notice that the moon was glowing? Beforehand, like the entire Apollo space program. I think I know where you're going with this, which is the entire, when you go up and look at the moon in a full bright moon, tonight or whenever it's full, it's really, really bright. Extremely bright, white. In fact, you can't even look at it with night vision. And yet, when you look at all the photos and movies of Apollo, it's this dark, ashen gray. And we'll take it one step further in that picture that Rob shows where the moon is transiting in front of the Earth. The color's all wrong. It's completely off.
When the astronauts are on the moon, supposedly, why isn't it just this crazy bright white light shining out?
Oh, yeah, it should be totally overexposed.
That's interesting, too, because what you see I've looked into Galileo's drawings. They say before they had a telescope that they couldn't see the markings on the moon. There's no drawings of it from 1400, 1200. So why wouldn't you be able to see what we can clearly see with our eyes?
Someone changed the light bulbs.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I mean, there's no drawings of it. I mean, they didn't really. And in fact, they thought it was like they didn't even think there was any kind of craters or anything on it until they got the telescope. So that story's never jived with me. Again, you know my opinion of history, so I don't really put much to it. But
yeah.
Interesting.
Another question?
Yes.
I find it really fascinating. I've heard so many times Barack Obama scoff people who believe in flat Earth. Mm-hmm. And also Hillary Clinton saying so many times, we've hit the glass ceiling.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating for people who don't believe it. Why would they use those kinds of terms? Another thing I want to bring up is my relatives prefer to be entertained than educated. That scares the hell out of me.
Yeah,
I think we all have relatives like that.
Yeah, let me throw in a quick story because I know we've got 7 minutes left. To that point, I went to a party and they wanted to watch a movie, and they sat down and it's like they had a choice between JFK, the movie from Oliver Stone, and Serenity. And I asked them which one they wanted, and almost everybody who had already seen Serenity, which was a space movie, an entertainment movie, and JFK almost no one had seen. And I said, and I could recommend it. I was going, look, JFK is a brilliant film. Why you got to watch this at least once. And the reply back was almost unanimously was, we don't want to learn anything. We want to be entertained. And it was like, ugh, you guys are killing me.
Before we said, why are you always looking into things? Sometimes I just don't want to learn.
Yeah.
First and last date there.
I get another question.
Very different kind of people. Yeah,
Hi, my name's Brian from Red Deer, Alberta. So my question is there any credence to this pole shift that you keep hearing about? I guess if the Earth's flat, there wouldn't be, but there is obviously magnetic fields up north.
We just automatically hand the microphone to Bob.
Go, Bob.
Okay, well, my answer to that is there could be a pole shift magnetically. And in fact, we are witnessing this happening at this very moment. Earth's magnetic fields are radically changing, and in fact, to the degree that a lot of airports are actually having to rename their runway numbers because the magnetic bearing is changing. And I find this interesting because we're also seeing some really radical changes, weather-wise around the world. And one thing that I really find interesting is the whole story of the rapture. And also how this time around, when the world ends, that it's going to basically be happening in fire. Well, if you follow the electric universe model and understand how this plasma actually works, if magnetically we do actually change this polarity, it could very well cause that thing that I was talking about today about, what is it that determines up from down to actually change over. And that could be the catalyst that could cause things to actually start going up, and it would also wreak havoc with the plasma system. So I would say that it is possible. We are definitely seeing some very interesting signs regarding that, not to mention all the heat waves. Of course, a lot of that could also be brought about by other artificial manipulation of the weather. But it certainly right now has enough evidence that I would be watching it very carefully.
Just in the interest of time, one more here.
Hi, my name is Christina. I'm from Edmonton area. I just was wondering what your guys' theories are with eclipses. And, from the Bible standpoint, in Egypt, during the plagues, there was darkness. So was that an eclipse? And what is an eclipse?
Yeah. In the Genesis account, it says he makes two great lights. One to rule the day, one to rule the night. It doesn't say he makes a great light and a rock with this reflector. We see in other places where it says that the moon will not give her light. So, from my perspective, from a biblical perspective, that they're some sort of light-generating objects that are up there. And if they can be turned on, I suppose they could be turned off. Now, eclipses are different. It's a scenario where something's going in front of something else. Now, I had I don't know what else to call it. It was more realistic than a dream. I don't know if it was an open vision or what it was. I don't know. But it was very vivid. I was in this dream vision, whatever you want to call it. I was on a lake doing a long-distance test with the P900. And there was this really loud boom, like this crazy loud, deep boom, and the sun shut off. It's just like, the sun just turned off. And it was beyond pitch black in my vision. And so in that, what does it mean? I have no idea. Maybe, I ate something before I went to bed. I don't know. But it was a tangible darkness, and that's the same type of darkness that's described during the time of the Exodus. So, what does that mean? I don't know. If they are just light bulbs that were turned on at the day 4 of creation, then they could be turned off too.
Other question?
Actually, I have 1,000 questions, but I'll keep this short and simple. My name is Bonnie. I'm from Sherwood Park. And I just wanted to let the people in the Edmonton area know that I really want to start having meetups here. So, Mark.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, Mark has graciously offered to put the notices on his channel so that everyone will know when and where the meetups are scheduled, and we hope to have a great turnout, and we hope to do this at least once a month. Cool. So hope to see you all soon again.
Yeah, good idea. Excellent.
Might have time for one more here.
Hi, my name is Veronica. I'm from Edmonton, Alberta. Kind of following up with the last question, I just wanted to know if you guys believe in the sun simulators.
The sun simulators?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen video of one of them that they have, the hexagon-looking one, which is pretty crazy because we know that they can put up things 8,000 pounds on balloons. So, that's why I've had a couple people try and offer to either buy my way down to Antarctica. And they're Globers. They really want me to go to Antarctica and watch this 24-hour sun. And for me, it's just not worth the money because I don't think it would be proof because they put you in one spot with a bunch of people at a camp. And if I see a light just go around my head, I still am standing on a frozen tundra that's getting 6 months of sun. And I'm not sure that that's enough when I've seen that sun simulator. NASA's got 2 patents, I think, for it.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely, they're not getting patents for fake things, I don't think. I definitely think they have it. What for? I have no idea. They've got all kinds of telescope stuff down there in Antarctica, too, that's crazy that we don't get to see very much of. Huge things, 10-story high reflector mirrors and who knows what they're doing with that stuff.
Does anyone else on the panel believe in them?
I don't know enough about it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've seen some of the same stuff that he's referring to.
Exist by what I've seen.
Yeah, I believe definitely. I've seen the patents that you can just look them up.
Of course, we all know that patents can be fake.
Well, yeah, fair enough. Right. But certainly someone somewhere has been thinking about this and took the time to draw up schematics and go through.
Why?
Yeah.
What are they planning on using it for?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And especially if they believe global warming and all that, why would you want to add another sun?
Melting at some parts of Antarctica because something is buried there. I mean, these are things you start thinking about.
Yeah. Also, look how far lighting technology has come. For example, Jeran and I both have these 6,300 lumen flashlights, and when you look at the bulbs in them, the LED bulbs, there's almost nothing to them. It's crazy. So when I look at that and I think of if you had an entire panel of them the size of something very large and a good power source behind it, you literally could create something like the sun. So I don't think it's far-fetched out of our technology at all.
No. Yeah, it's about as big as that screen over there, the one that I've seen, hexagon-shaped and probably 100 bulbs on it. And I've never seen it turned on, but I've seen the light.
Yeah.
And there's some movie, and Mark's a movie expert, and I always forget titles and quotes of movies. Maybe you remember where there are people and they have there's a sun simulator, and that one doesn't work, and they have to go to another area to live. Ring a bell?
No. Sorry.
In movies, and oftentimes things in movies have something to do with something that's really happening.
Patricia, I think we have time for one more, and I'll be right here.
Last question.
Hi, friends. My name's Michael.
I'm sure most can agree that the spell of Hollywood has a big influence on the collective masses, and being our neighbors across south as opposed to down south. With Trump pushing out his Space Force, to me, just proceeding with the generation kind of growing up now, seeing these space indoctrination movies, just my speculation, I'm sure there's many agendas, but to me, it's just a military recruitment scam because, they can never use enough meat shields, any military, whatever country, but I just wanted to know your guys' take of what the Space Force, which is bollocks in my opinion.
It's a good one to end on.
I think you're 100% right. That's what better way to get teenagers and college kids to be interested in joining the military, so they want to go into the Space Force. No, sorry, you got to start out here. We don't have a place there, but we have somewhere in the Marines. So I think you're absolutely right. It seems like it to me.
That seems to me to be a perpetuation. If the Wernher von Braun deathbed testimony is true, then he said it. It's all based on a lie. But there's always another excuse for space-based weaponry. And creating a space force, it's a militarized thing. That's what we're talking about. Ronald Reagan's Star Wars, right? From my perspective, biblically speaking, we see that in the end times, the sky is going to open like a sky dome. And it tells you that the sky is going to roll away like a scroll, and that Yeshua is coming back on a horse. And Revelation 19:19 says that all the nations of the world have gathered together to make war with the one coming on the horse. So for me, when I look at this whole agenda for space-based weapons, that's what makes the most sense. That they're trying to find a way to make war with God, and if we believe we're in the end times, that day may be approaching when the Sky Dome opens up and they want to be ready for it.
I read that former astronaut, in quotes, Scott Kelly said when Trump started talking about Space Force originally, said it was a, quote, dumb idea. That's interesting. So they're creating their own opposition with asking Scott Kelly to say that.
Another thing might be the alien invasion, that you want to have your, even though it's fake, you have your fake military team to combat it.
And that was what Wernher von Braun, he said the last card is aliens. And remember, it's all a lie.
Do any of us think that the last card will be played in our lifetime?
Yes. Yeah.
Probably sooner than we think.
Yep.
Right. Well, we're aware, so we'll at least be able to tell our neighbors, don't believe. Don't do what they tell you to do. We'll be the last ones.
So
that's it. It's been fun. And we all have a new appreciation for bells, I think.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Thanks for putting up with all
Thanks to everybody in Edmonton. You guys were great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this.
Give it up for the panel, guys. Give it up. Patricia Steere, Mark Sargent, Jeran Campanella, Rob Skiba, Bob Nodel, Emmanuel Lakanga, Big Matt Long, and of course, the guy that put this all together for us and did a lot of work. And I can tell you this: give a round of applause to his wife and children first, because that's a lot of work for Rachel and the kids to do this. But, oh, there you are. I was looking for you. Robbie Davidson.